Hello, I'm Dr. James Bogash, Master of Health and Longevity and creator of Modern Health Myths. And today we're going to talk a little bit about how much where you live plays a role in your risk of heart disease. And this is not a brand new topic. We've known for a long time that our exposure to things like green spaces and air pollution and noise pollution plays a pretty significant role in your risk of having a heart attack. We know that high pollution days, without a doubt, increase risk of having a heart attack, which is crazy. Everything else being equal, a day with higher pollution leads to more heart attacks. You combine that with something like COVID that happens in a more polluted area, and it becomes quite the scary combination. But to think that green spaces, so like the amount of greenery we have in parks and areas like that, could play a role in heart disease may seem a little strange, but it probably plays back into things like stress levels and our communication with nature. Obviously, the more we're outside and not around cement, the better off our mental state is. And so maybe it's not that big of a surprise that it leads to a reduction in heart attack and heart deaths. What was a little bit more surprising, and these are two different stories in the same journal, was the link with noise pollution. And noise pollution both during the day and at night was linked to increased risk of heart attack and heart deaths, which is crazy. I mean, at night maybe we could see that you would be less, maybe you don't get into deep enough sleep, and that can affect your overall health stress. But to get specific, in this particular study, they measured it in quartiles, so every 25% increase in green spaces, and these were based on satellite imagery. So both these studies were done in Canada, and so both Ontario and Toronto, and they looked at how much green space based on quartiles. So each increase of 25% of green space in an area that they lived in led to a 70% lower risk of having an acute heart attack and a 6% lower risk of having heart failure. And overall, a 10% lower risk of dying of cardiovascular causes. It's not the only protective factor, but for something that you have little control over, it certainly can be a little worrisome if you live in the middle of a concrete jungle without any sight of green available. The road noise one was looked at over 1 million people, so this was a very large study. And again, they found that the quartile increase, so the more sounds there were both at day and nighttime led to, again, a 7% increased risk of cardiac events. And so that's pretty significant, but it plays a role in, it tells us that we need to get outside. We need to spend time with Mother Nature. We need to ground ourselves with everything around us, and that just becomes really important. As far as the sounds, it goes for the same thing. If I was talking to a patient just today who her and her husband, their family are ranch managers, and the amount of quiet that you experience is a little disturbing at first, but after a couple days it becomes the new norm. And you don't realize how pleasant the silence is when all you're hearing is crickets and maybe the breeze rustling through the trees. Same thing with camping. Those kind of things all have a tendency to be good for your health and obviously clearly lower your risk of heart events, whether it's heart attacks or heart death. Just from the fact of deciding where you happen to live. So, as always, I'll post a link to this particular study in the comment section. Make sure you share this with somebody who you think needs this information, like the video, and subscribe to the channel.